Hello, my name is Dean Contover, and this is The Current Buzz. Thank you for watching. Today we have Tom Zuppa. He's the senior editor from the Lowell Sun. He's the new editor.
Thank you.
The previous one retired. And now you're, how many months has it been that you've been?
Jim Campanini, the previous editor.
Okay. I didn't want to mention his name.
No, that's okay. Jim was a great boss and a great mentor to me. He retired as of the end of November. And the following week, actually December 7th, I was named senior editor of the Sun. And there's been a couple of wrinkles with that since, which is a few weeks ago I was also named senior editor of the Sentinel Enterprise in Fitchburg. So I'm running two newsrooms right now. So if one newsroom is a challenge, two is much more than twice the challenge. So very interesting transition. Two great newspapers to lead, and it's look forward to some exciting things in the future. Now,
have you made new friends since you've been the editor?
I joke that overnight I became the most popular person in Lowell because the editor of the newspaper has to have a public face, and so people want to sort of scope out where maybe I'm at on certain things, but also the understanding of the role the newspaper plays in the community, because it's a powerful institution, and how the news is covered and how perhaps the editorial page is perceived is very important. So I immediately was getting people contacting from all over the place, and
politicians,
and a lot of people from my past who were very happy for this thing. But absolutely, and this, it's you have to be out and about a lot as well. So there's sort of I don't say public relations, but there's a public piece of this job beyond deciding what goes in the newspaper every day and managing the day-to-day operation.
Let me ask you a question. Does that mean you got a pay bump in this? You don't have to answer that, but I mean, did you get a pay bump?
Do I get to say no comment? It would be great.
You can say no comment, but...
I always hate when politicians do that, by the way. I'm going to exercise my one no comment.
I'm not a politician. I'm a host on a cable show.
Okay.
So I just thought I'd ask you that. Well, I mean, do you live in Lowell or do you live in Greater Lowell?
I live in Billerica.
Oh, you live in Billerica.
So I've been there for probably 30 years now.
Okay.
Another great community. These are all really interesting communities.
Yeah,
and they're all...
Each one of them, aren't they?
Very individual. It's very different than being out perhaps in other parts of the country where things are more county-based, and so your town is sort of like the next town, which is like this. They're very individual personas to each of the communities, and you find this no matter where you go, that as you know, Chelmsford's not Billerica, and Billerica's not Chelmsford.
Right.
And neither one of them are Lowell, and there's a lot of pride in that they're unique in their own way,
and you
don't find elsewhere.
They have different governance.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and you get to smaller communities where it's more Board of Selectmen driven than a town administrator, town manager driven type thing. But it's a gray area because you can be, in an urban downtown. You can drive 20 minutes and be out among farms. So it's very varied. It's not we talk about having seasons. We also have very different communities that you can be in different settings that I don't see elsewhere.
Speaking of that, don't you have reporters for particular towns?
Right. We've actually undergone a restructuring. Okay. Chelmsford's been very fortunate. We've had Alana Melanson for the last 4 years covering Chelmsford, who is a terrific reporter. Right. But again, all of our people are general assignment. At any given moment, if something were to happen, a big news story were to happen in Chelmsford at 7 o'clock at night, Alana's gone for the day. So we're going to have our night general assignment reporter tackle that stuff.
I see.
Same thing if there's something happens in the morning and she happens to be at a selectmen's meeting that night or town meeting. Another reporter is going to jump in. So and we do this with everybody. So you might have a geographic area or topic area, but at the same time, everyone does everything in a given moment.
How do you get stories? I mean, do you get letters to the editor and that feeds the story, or do people call you and...
It's a little bit of everything. People will reach out to us on social media. They'll call us and let us know about things. Some of it can be government driven, so we're looking at what's going on at the selectmen's meeting, what's going on at the school committee meeting, what would be interesting to write about. And sometimes it's just stories that sort of, you just talk to people and you find out there's an issue in their community. So it works both ways. I always tell reporters the best stories aren't in the newsroom. They're actually getting out and talking to people, and that's how we find out about a lot of things.
Right.
Just being out and about, you talk to people, hey, did you hear about this? This happened. And I think that's what makes us a very vibrant newspaper is you see your community there.
Well, you know what's happening. I mean, the 50th anniversary of us going to the moon, is coming up.
July.
There's a lot of people who worked on that project that live in the
Right.
Merrimack Valley
Which
area.
we would love to find them.
Yeah.
And that's something now we can plan for July. Who's behind that?
Exactly. I mean, I know of someone, but I don't have their name
Sure.
that worked on that
Because
project.
That was such a technological
Wonder.
marvel
Yeah,
at the time.
that's
As a
good
matter of
word.
fact, I heard something very interesting the other night, which is all of the computing power it took to get to the moon in 1969 is not as powerful as your phone, which is pretty astounding.
Wow.
There's more computing power in your cell phone.
They say
now.
there's more computer power in your car versus an airline.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally get that. But again, it's
Yeah.
and sometimes it's just editors sitting around batting out ideas. Oh, here's, Easter's coming up. We're going to have to consider, what do we do for an Easter story this year?
Right.
Greek Easter's coming up. How do
Right.
we portray that in the paper?
Right.
So it's a little
balancing
messy.
act.
It's like watching sausage being made sometimes.
okay,
It's not
okay.
always pretty, but
Yeah.
the end product gets there.
Oh, interesting. Let's talk about a couple of other things that come up in Massachusetts. Casino gambling. How does that look? What do you see in that? I mean, you're in the know, or you have people telling you. I know there's a place in Everett that's being built.
Right, and
Yeah.
the Wynn Casino's almost done. I actually know where that is. It's a
I
very,
thought it was.
it's a very weird.
I thought it was Encore.
It's a very weird spot on
It
Sullivan
is.
Square.
It
It
is.
doesn't kind of fit.
I know.
And I think there's probably going to be some urban renewal around that neighborhood because it's
Right.
it's a very old industrial
I
neighborhood.
heard
so
the
can
prices
see-
are going up already in regards to
absolutely.
the rent and so forth.
Absolutely.
And homes.
But I think what you're going to see with casino gambling is going to be the same thing you're going to see with cannabis, which is the first people in the door are going to make the money. Okay, Springfield has done very well. Okay, I just read a story in Rhode Island where the slot power down there is really seriously hurting because the money's gone to Springfield, and now Rhode Island's also competing with the casinos in Connecticut. Now what happens in Everett? You open another one. Well, people will drive an hour and a half to go to Rhode Island, but they'll go 20 minutes if that's easier.
Right.
So same thing with cannabis. We had a store open
Well, I just
on
wanna-
Saturday.
okay.
On Saturday.
Okay.
And everything we had heard was, you better get there early because the traffic's going to be horrible. Lines out the door.
Right.
And it wasn't because it's now the 12th or the 14th. The first one was in Leicester, 6-hour wait to get in.
Right.
Every succeeding one, it's a smaller market. Okay, so the one that opened in Lowell, it's been busy, but hasn't broken the bank. There's one opening up in Ayer fairly soon. That'll have a small audience too. So I think the early money is makers, the people in the door first, are the ones that are going to make the money. I read where the cannabis projections way below for revenue, way below what
Wow.
they thought they were going to be. I think
Yeah.
they were looking at 53 million in the fiscal year 2019. I think they've only got 6 million so far. So it's really slow. Some stores still haven't come online.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure the revenue is going to be there that they think.
Well, from what I understand in Colorado, some of these stores are closing down.
Right.
So-
I actually was out in Denver 2 years ago when it was sort of at the end of year one of this, and it was booming. But again, it's like anything, it's market driven.
It's a bell-shaped curve, I
Yeah,
mean, it reaches
yeah.
a peak, and then,
You don't want to be the last one in the door on that.
You know what I'd like you to do in regards to the paper? Do a story on the people who check the scales on the cannabis, because I don't want to be ripped off.
I bet you that's a sealer of weights and measures.
It is. I looked into
Yeah.
it, and it would be a nice story.
Yeah, the guy was same
No one
guy's
wri-
checking your gas pump.
Yeah, exactly the same guys, right? We had them on, by the way, about a year ago. So I mean, we do that. Presidential campaign is coming up. We have a senator that's running. There's almost like 12 or 13 or 14.
18.
But by the time this is on air, it'll probably be 20,000 or
Yeah.
something.
Oh yeah.
like that.
It's
Everybody.
it's a crazy crowd. I think.
Right.
Unfortunately, what happens when you have a state that skews very much one way,
Right.
you don't get the people of that party to come campaign. Especially with Elizabeth Warren now in the race. I'm sure those candidates are not going to be spending very much time because it's a winner-take-all state.
Yeah, right.
Now, there's actually some discussion about maybe not doing that anymore, but it's by congressional district.
Right.
I know. In Maine, they do it by congressional district.
That's right, they
Now what they're trying to add on to that is
Maine and Nebraska do it.
Maine and Nebraska. But now what Maine is doing is they're trying to add on something that says, if you want electoral votes, you have to have released your tax returns. So that could get real. I don't know how legal
Wow.
that is. That could get a little funky.
That's interesting.
But the idea being, and again, we're not hearing Elizabeth Warren talking about abolishing
Electoral
college entirely.
Yeah.
What that would do is that would force everybody to run everywhere.
Exactly.
Okay?
And that
Everyone-
costs a lot of money to
Right,
run.
right.
You know, just running in New York State.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Not only do you have to pay for TV time in New York State, you have to pay for TV time in
New Jersey.
in Albany.
In New Jersey.
And, well, you would get the
Right.
feed off of New York, but you have to pay Albany, then Syracuse, then Buffalo.
Right.
That's
It's
just one
expensive.
state.
So now you look at that state where you got Kirsten Gillibrand,
Yeah.
who's running, but New Jersey you got Cory Booker running.
Right.
Okay. So if you're a candidate and you don't live in one of those states, where do you run? Okay, Bernie Sanders. You're gonna go spend time in Vermont with Bernie Sanders there? Maybe not, but you'll campaign in New Hampshire, you'll campaign in Maine. So there are certain states they're not going to come to. So I don't know how many presidential candidates you're going to see in Massachusetts. Though everybody, I mean, people haven't even announced yet have been up in New Hampshire, and it's. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
it's a circus up there.
I think NECTN, if you Google the election, you could see where they are.
Right.
I mean, there's so
Right.
many people in New Hampshire.
Right.
I mean,
There's like more, and again, there's people you may not know, like John Delaney, who's a congressman from Maryland, Andrew Yang, who's a venture capital business guy who's
Right.
running for president. These are people who you're not going to know about. But I find it interesting that the Democratic National Committee created a framework to get people on the stage in the first debate, and some of these lesser candidates have made it. Made that threshold. So this could be, you're going to be hearing, at least in the first debate, how many, some voices you've never heard of who might be intriguing to some people. If you remember
sure.
but if you remember back 4 years ago, the RNC had the problem where they had so many candidates. They had like the kids table debate, which nobody watched. If I remember one of them, they actually had 3 or 4 candidates debating in an empty hall beforehand, which it just seems to be a little weird, that you would have this debate with nobody there. It's for the TV cameras on candidates that you don't think are going to make it.
Right.
So,
there's a lot of things in regards to there's a lot of traffic, all right? Route 3, I think they have new barriers in the center of Route 3 around Billerica, but
Right.
they haven't come up to Tingsboro. I remember a few years ago there was a serious accident where a car went over the barrier and ran into the southbound lane on Route 3. Can we get some more barriers, wire barriers up in the middle of that island? Because there's just a little dip there, and that
Right.
doesn't prevent a car from going across
Right.
into a high-speed lane.
I don't know specifically how they decide where they're going to put
Okay.
them, but I think one of the considerations is how close those north and southbound lanes are together, because on the one hand, you don't want cars going across. On the other hand, you don't want them bouncing back into traffic,
Yeah,
which
right.
is a whole other issue as well.
Right, right.
So I hadn't noticed the ones on Route 3.
Yeah, around Billerica,
Yeah.
they are in that area.
Right.
The other thing is, I think there should be lights on Route 3 in regards to the merge of 110 and 495, southbound and northbound, because there have been many accidents in that area.
On 3 or on the side roads?
On 3. And the side roads specifically. You could put those towered lights they have on 495, but they don't have them on Route 3. So as an editorial editor, I just thought I'd make you aware of that.
Well, what's intriguing about that is I might consider doing it in non-peak hours, because I know what it's like to try to get northbound on 3 at night or southbound on 3 in the morning.
You mean putting lights up on?
Yeah, but they only run during so 6 to 9 in the morning. You get that straight shot southbound.
Right.
Okay. And then the lights at 10 or 11 in the morning, you put the lights on. That might not entirely alleviate things, but I guess I don't want to be backing people up into Vermont on Route 3 at 7 o'clock in the morning.
No, I'm not talking about tolls. I'm talking about those lights.
Well, you're talking like Route 2 and Acton.
Oh,
that
okay,
kind of
Route
thing.
2.
Yeah.
Well, don't you think Route 2 should be widened? I mean, it's
That's a
about
really
time.
interesting thing. There's actually some discussion going on out in the Fitchburg-Leominster area that they need to do that for economic development, because it's hard to get out there.
Right.
And there's all sorts of issues, like we used to have with the Lowell connector, with odd exits and sight lines. It's and then you have your 190 turnoff. But I've talked to some people who say Fitchburg and Leominster isn't necessarily the problem as much as the Concord Rotary, because that's a bigger
that is.
So if you could do something with the Rotary to improve the flow
Might
of
have
traffic.
to put a tunnel underneath or something like that. I mean, really. We've dealt with that for years.
We're going to go do a bridge.
That's why
raise the city.
That's why the state police barracks is right nearby, so they can.
But what did Barney Frank say about the big dig? It would have been cheaper to raise the city. Okay, maybe it's cheaper to raise the road.
Yeah.
Oh, have a Drumhill Rotary like at the Concord Rotary. I know.
How about, speaking of that, how about Thorndike Street? What's going to happen there in regards to that intersection, that rotary? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand that.
The widening issue and that left-hand turn coming out of Thorndike is a real sore spot. Now, people who don't know, that's the Salopoli project.
Right.
That has come along great. Now, hopefully it's going to be open in a few months, but there's a question of taking a left-hand turn out of that lot onto Thorndike going up towards Lowell City Hall and the arena. That's a real sore spot because I think people expected there to be a light there and a turn. I don't know how you put another light because there's already two lights there leading into the LRTA.
I know, that's
right. Extremely difficult. I will say this, they've widened that road and that used to be one of the worst bottlenecks in the city. It's a breeze to get through now.
Right, is it?
Yeah, it is because they've added that turn lane in the middle, which just allows people to flow back.
That's Summer Street and Thorndike Street, so just in case people don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a great, I drive by there every morning, and it's a great project.
I see.
And very excited to see that finally come to fruition because I think that's going to bring some new people into the city.
What's the population of Lowell? Do you know it? Offhand?
I think it's like 108,000
officially.
Officially. However, there's always that. You do have
well, people are sending their census in.
Right.
Right.
Well, it should be.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Should be. Well, I think June. is.
So you'll have a story on that regarding
sure.
the census.
And again, that gets to be very important for apportionment of seats in Congress. I mean, what I've been hearing is I've heard some people say Massachusetts is going to lose a seat.
I've heard that.
But every study I've looked at doesn't say that that's going to happen.
I heard that yesterday.
Yeah.
I was told by somebody in the State House that it doesn't look like we're going to lose a seat.
Right. There are actually states that will lose seats.
Right. No doubt.
Most of the states that are, California, Texas,
Why don't we
Florida.
just increase the congressmen in the House of Representatives? You could do that, just like you could do that with the Supreme Court.
Sure.
You could increase it or decrease it or whatever.
Well, I heard an interesting idea for the Senate, and some of the issues in the Senate is you have very small states that have equal representation, like a California or a Texas.
Right.
Someone said, why can't you set a number like you have in the House of Representatives? Because every seat is worth so much.
Right.
So many residents. Why not have one senator for 2 or 3 states if they're low? If they're low population states. But the problem with that is you'd have to get those low population states to change it, and there's no way they're giving up that power.
Why don't we change California to Northern California, Central California, and
they're talking about that.
And Southern California.
There's some discussion about that.
Yeah. I think we should have a high-speed train from San Francisco to LA.
Now, here's an idea. So Massachusetts, remember years ago, they reduced the number of lawmakers. We used to have 240 state reps, way back.
That's right.
Okay, and then they went to 160.
Right.
On the other hand, you've got about 400 state reps up in New Hampshire. Everybody in your street's a state rep.
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know which is better.
And they're all over 80 because they only get paid $100.
That's right. A year.
And so they're retired.
Yeah.
So it's basically a conservative. People who've lived life and so forth, they have nothing to do. They run for state rep.
Yeah, but it's simply nice to have like 12 reps in your town. Something you can always go to.
That's right. Electoral college. Ever since college, I was always against electoral college because my feeling is this: that in every democracy in the world, popular vote wins. I mean, this is before Mr. Trump won the electoral college. I just think that popular vote should win the election. I mean, that's my feeling.
But the history of this was the Grand Compromise.
I know, I remember.
This was actually how we became a country. This was the sticking point, that the big states would not overrun the small states. At the time, though, remember, there were 13 states, and no one envisioned this whole other growth and Western expansion, and now up to 50 states.
Right.
So it's had this unintended consequence that you can have some small states hold up something in the Senate, which I don't think the framers truly envisioned, but this is the system we have, and I don't know, short of abolishing the entire Electoral College, how you would rig that or fix it.
Well, I mean, if the state maybe you'd have to have an amendment to the Constitution. That's
Right,
very
and you would need
difficult.
38 states to
That's
sign off
right.
on it.
I know.
That's a tough go.
Speaking of 38 states, I understand the ERA has 37 states.
36 or 37?
7, yeah. And
Well-
it was voted down by one vote in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
And I think they're waiting for Nevada
Mm-hmm.
to vote on that. And there would be 38. And it would
That would be very interesting to see how that would play out.
28th Amendment.
Yeah.
And then there was a question 2 last November in regards to Citizens United.
Right.
Right? They have I think they're picking people on the board, or you go on. I had a gentleman here talking about that.
Right.
And they're talking about having an amendment to the Constitution where, donations would be less. And
Well, just think about when the ERA was first filed.
Yeah,
In the 70s.
I know.
It's not a quick process. It's designed not to be quick.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I agree. That's why we've only had 18 since the 10 that we initially had. So anything? Tell me about the heating problem at Lowell High School. What's happening there, man? Or the new roof at Lowell High School.
Okay, for your viewers.
We've got 3.5 minutes.
Okay. I don't know if I can do it in 3
I
minutes.
know.
But the viewers who aren't aware, there's been a big debate the last couple of years in Lowell about building a new high school or renovating the existing Lowell High School downtown, and it was decided that they would renovate. They're still in the process of getting plans together and funding and approval of the state, and at the same time, there tends to be the typical problems that you have in a building there's 3 sections of Lowell High School up to 150 years old. So
Right.
boilers go out regularly. I do know that OSHA was in recently, or the state was in recently, and
Shouldn't they be?
oh sure, and I think it was a union-driven thing. I'm not
Well,
positive
it's
about
about
that.
time the union got
Well,
involved.
and what happened was when they got there that day, there were specific long-term issues, but there was also like a one-off issue with, this boiler didn't work that day, we were repairing it when you came, and there were some longer-term things. The problem with Lowell is Lowell High School is not the only problem. There's 10 other schools that need some sort of serious repair, and I know that the city's putting together a package for funding that as well, but getting money from the state is very different when you're doing repairs. It's a much lower return, so
Right.
that becomes very costly. But it also becomes a quality of education thing. If you're wearing your jacket in school every day,
Yeah, exactly.
It's
In school.
in school,
Yeah,
in school, and
Yeah.
we've heard stories about teachers bringing space heaters in.
Wow.
There's a lot of, which is not really safe either. The funniest part of the whole Lowell High thing is that the original building is probably in the best shape because it was built to last. There's a 19,
What, the 1896 building or the 1922?
The 1896 building. It was just, it's probably in the best shape of those 3 buildings.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and the 1970s building is probably in the worst shape of any of the buildings.
Well, when you have to cancel a basketball game because it's raining.
They canceled. Yeah, it was raining in the gym.
Yeah.
They had burst pipes, and it's a little bit of everything. And the parents have really, taken up the drive here. They've really pushed to get something fixed.
And they close the swimming pool. They can't use the swimming pool.
Yeah, not only can they not use the swimming pool, they're not going to be able to reopen the swimming pool because the state won't pay for it.
Oh.
Pools are off. There's one of those things with the state now. The pools, you want a pool, you can pay for it.
Oh,
one
wow.
of those punch list things that the state will not pay a dime for. That's considered a frill. So if you wanted an atrium in the school, they're not going to pay for that. If you wanted a rock climbing wall, they're not paying for that. They will pay for the basics of a high school.
Wow.
But nothing else. It's going to be $345 million to renovate.
I know.
Probably 7 to 10 years to fix.
Wow. Should they get a new school other than that? If you,
Well, the newspaper
supported that.
The newspaper supported the new high school, and one of the reasons was that you can get a new high school for
That's right.
$345 million. But it was the site that was
Right.
a big concern. It was out off 38, and
Is it Lawrence High School off 38 too?
Absolutely.
Not 38, but
off the highway.
we have to wrap it up. Tom Zuppa, senior editor from the Lowell Sun. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
I do appreciate it.
We probably could have talked another hour.
Oh, great. Have me back.
All right, very good. Thank you for coming.